Okay, I'm going to change the oil on my 2016 Sprinter 2500 van. So what I always do is, here's where you fill the oil, right here. So I put in this AMSOIL flush. I use AMSOIL. I like that product. So you put this in first, add the entire bottle to the engine, idle for 10 to 15 minutes, and then drain the oil. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll do this, push, it's one of the safety caps, push down. This can be the tricky part, to get this tab. Okay, so then you get the tab. You got to pull this tab so when shipping it doesn't leak. Open this up, and then pour the whole contents in. So you don't want to drive it, but you want to idle it. So for 10-15 minutes. So I put that in, and now I'm going to just start it up and let it run for 15 minutes before I change the oil. Okay, so now I warmed it up for 15 minutes. And now this is where you gotta drain it. So it takes a 13 millimeter for this van. Oh shoot. Gotta be careful, it shoots away. Okay, now down here, right here is where your oil filter is on the Sprinter vans. So you can take this tube off, which comes off, you can lift up, comes off pretty easy, and pull that out to get it out of your way. If you want to get your hand in there better. A lot of times I can get it off with my hand. Let me see if I can. Yeah, it's coming. If you don't tighten it too much, you can get it off with your hand. But if you tighten it too much, you might have to use a special oil filter wrench for this, or like try a strap wrench to get it off. Then you get this, just make sure you don't spill any. I let it drain a little bit. So that's where the filter is. And then it'll drip down into the oil pan. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you pull it out. And then you just have to replace, you know, this O-ring right here and this O-ring here when you do that. So that just comes out. I use a rag or something to pull it off, but it just comes off the top. Like that. And that's the filter itself. And then the new filter that I have. And then this one comes with the new O-rings So that's what you do. Replace those O-rings. You can put this one on like so, and then just replace all the O-rings. You can use a knife or something like that. Pull those ones off. If you have a almost like a dental tool pick too, that works. See, you're not gonna worry about ruining it, so you can just use a knife or something. Just don't scratch the surface. So I just cut it, pull it off, then open up the new bag. Put the new O-ring right over top. And then this one, it's easier usually than that small one. Pull that off. And put the new one around it. Like so. Make sure you have a little bit of oil on the, I use a little bit of oil on it. There's enough oil on this thing anyways to use, but just enough to get it so it slides in better. And then what you do is down in here, you stick it in there like so. And then you just tighten it down. And once you tighten it down, you're good to go. And then don't forget to put your air filter part back in. So it slides in here and snaps in there pretty easy. So then when you tighten that down, at the end it clicks when you're tightening it, and then it just stops. So then you know you're tight enough. And then you're supposed to torque it to, I think it says 25 Newton meters. What I like to do is check the air filter, and it's a Torx for that. And you take out these screws right here. Helps to have an extension, so you just pull those out, and they're captive so they don't fall out. Just pull it. And then once you have that, you can lift up to get to the air filter, and then you can see how bad it is. It's not terrible bad, but I think I'm just going to replace it anyways, just to help with, there's a lot of debris on the sides and stuff. Then I can, and then clean out inside here, like especially from the fall and all that, you get like leaves getting sucked up inside, little particles, stuff. And I usually vac that out with a vacuum. So when make sure you get it in, make sure these clips right here are in. There's quite a few of them in the back there. So you just have to make sure those are in before you tighten it down. And then what you can do is make sure they're lined up, and then tighten them down. I don't like to tighten them too tight, just a little snug. And then strip them out, so you got to be careful with this step. And especially with this impact, it's not as noisy as the other ones, so you can't tell how much torque you're doing. So there you are, that's how and then make sure this gets clipped back in. And then make sure none of the wires, like any of these wires, are still on there, because you could have them pop off, or you can even take them off to get, if you want to take the cover. Then you can put the drain plug back in. You always want to put it in hand tight first, so you don't strip it, because you definitely don't want to strip your drain plug. When I was younger, I brought it to one of those quick change oil places, and then they stripped my drain plug, and then they wouldn't even replace it. So it was a disaster ever since. So then you tighten it down, but not too tight, but just tight enough to get a good seal. Then you're good to go there. Then you're ready to put the oil in. Okay, next you're ready to do the oil. So what you do is, this is where your oil fill is. Pull that out. And I always like to use a funnel, because it's hard to, you'll spill it if you try to just pour it directly into there. Like so. And make sure you always read your owner's manual for the type of oil, because especially with these newer diesels, they have to have low ash oil. So make sure you get the exact one for your vehicle, like the Mercedes-Benz one. It takes a specific oil, because your diesel particulate filter could get clogged up if you don't use the correct oil. So I look in the manual, and right here I have the 6-cylinder, and it says including filter. So it takes 3.3 US gallons, or 12.5 liters. So I have like 4 gallons of oil. So that way I make sure I have enough. And then I always put in, like I'll put in like 3 or a little less than 3, and then just check it, and then run it just to make sure. And it says, and right here it says the specifications are 228.51, 229.31, or 229.51 for this particular vehicle. So I have the AMSOIL European, and it's the 229.51 is the one for this particular oil, and it says it also on the back here. So that's the one I like to use, and it's good for turbochargers and 100% synthetic, so it works good. So then I just put in, just make sure you don't get that foil fall down inside the engine compartment. You could have problems. So I just peel that off. Oops, there's a piece there. And then pour it in. Then you're good to go. Okay, so I put 3 gallons in, so now I'll check it. This says 3.3. And it's in above the minimum, not quite halfway in between, so it needs a little more. So I'll put a little more in, and then because you don't want to overfill it, so I'll put a little more in, and then I'll start it and let it run for a little bit, and then check it again, because the oil filter will take up some of the oil. Okay, now I put I don't know, about a quart maybe in. So I'll take it out, put the cap on, make sure you put the cap on tight, dipstick in good, and then I'll start it and let it run for a little bit. So then what I do is you check for leaks. You know, look at the oil filter. here, make sure there's nothing leaking around there at all. And then underneath, just check, make sure there's no oil leaking from the drain plug or anywhere else. And it all looks good. So that's good, because if you have a leak, you'll be in trouble down the road for sure. Okay, so now check, clean it off. And see, now it's low, now it's down to the minimum. So I want to add more oil to top it off. Because it was higher, but now the filter took all the oil. So then you pull the cap and put the funnel back in. Okay, so I checked the oil now, and we're all full, so we're good to go. Then you just have to do on the inside, in the computer, you have to reset the oil change interval. To reset your oil alert monitor, you have to turn the ignition on, and let the lights go off. Hold down the 0 button until you hear a beep. Then press the M button until you get to the oil. Let's see here. So reset 5.1 is mine because I used the 5.51 oil. Then you press the 0 button twice, or no, hold it, sorry. Then press it twice, and then you're done. And that's all it takes to reset your oil.